I'm talking about straining for that logo on the side of your helmet and not the name on your back.
Yes, sir.
Because we know what it represents. It represents everybody here you see and everybody you can't that we've talked about. I'm here to strain with you, man. I swear to God, I'm here to strain with you. Let's go. Everything you got, strain with everything you got. Let's go. Bills on 3. 1, 2, 3. Bills.
You're listening to the Off Tackle with John Fina show with your host, Joe Miller. Well, what is going on, everybody? Welcome, everybody, into the Off Tackle with John Fina show, brought to you by the Market Dominator team on the Buffalo Rumblings Vidcast Network, presented by Picasso's Pizza. Treat yourself to the most flavorful pizza on game day. Picasso's, we are Buffalo Pizza, shipping local nationwide. Order online at picassospizza.net. My name is Joe Miller. I'm the host of this here wonderful show. You can find me on Twitter at Joe Miller Wired, and that guy sitting right over there getting ready to crack his beer is John Fina. John, Mr. Fina, are you coming down off of or coming up or whatever? Are you getting, I don't even know what the word is. How are you feeling?
It's been a dreadful weekend.
It has been a dreadful weekend. I would somewhat agree with that.
My high school team lost on Thursday night. And UCLA lost to my alma mater. And I'm torn, right? And then my Buffalo Bills lose, and there's like an angst. I'm just, So I'm hoping that the Albuquerque Bills backers T-shirt is the key to success this week.
I like it.
And if you have a trip planned to Albuquerque during the season, you definitely got to connect with them. They're awesome. Great people.
Well, welcome everybody into the show, into the Off Tackle with John Fina show on Buffalo Rumblings. A whole bunch of people in the comments section already. Remember, everybody, to like and subscribe, whatever platform you are tuned into, whether live right now or in podcast form during the week. You can also super chat Big John. Ask him a question, make a comment, whatever you want to do, get our attention. But Pamela's in the chat. Tracy Fictor's in the chat. Daniel Gowries. Pat Moran is in the chat. He already says, I want to hear from John if he thinks that Dorsey lacks confidence. We'll get back to this. So we're going to come back to that question from Pat Moran. Karen Idzik is in the room. Jason Humbert's in the room. Mark Johnson's in the room. The creator of Fina Friday and the JF70 t-shirt.
What?
John Fina's in the room.
Hello.
Look at how blue your eyes are in that picture. It's got to be the shirt, right? Is it the shirt?
It is. It definitely is. It's very chameleon-esque.
Well, welcome, everybody. It is so good to have you. Before we get started, let's hear from the show's title sponsor, the one, the only, Jonathan Spazchek.
Strategy. Block, vision. Get your vision up, balance, foot back, head up. Yeah, these are some of the strategies my good friend John Fina used to dominate on the field when he was playing for our great Buffalo football team. And these are some of the things that I use in real estate to dominate as the market dominator, and also the proud sponsor of the John Fina show, hosted by Joe Miller. So if you want to win in the real estate market, it's going to be important to bring good vision so you can see what's out there, good balance of the market. Folks, strategy is critical, and this is what we do. We educate, we advocate, we negotiate, and we dominate. So if you want to win the way our football team is, you call me directly, 716-570-3298. Let's go, Buffalo!
Ladies and gentlemen, that is John Spazchek. And according to our graphic that I created and still have not fixed, they actually adobcate. In case anybody's wondering, look that up. It's a French word.
So few people can do that well.
Adobcate? You got to find somebody that can adobcate for you.
Yes,
because it's really important when you're buying a house. But if you're in the market to buy or sell a home, whether you are in Western New York, New York State, or anywhere in the country, please give John a call. You can reach him at 716-570-3298, 716-570-3298. So before we jump into the show, we're gonna let we're gonna let Pat Moran feel special, and we're gonna get to his question before we talk about anything. So Pat asks you, hopefully he's still in the comment section, hasn't run off. I want to hear from John if he thinks that Dorsey lacks confidence in the offensive line when it comes to his run blocking or comes to their run blocking in the second half of games. So I'm guessing from your perspective or from what you've seen, do you think that there's issues with confidence in the O-line in the second half?
No, I don't think it's confidence. And I did torture myself by watching the second half again, right? I watched the whole damn game. And I thought it was really curious. Like, we played the last few minutes of the third quarter and the fourth quarter like we were losing. And I don't think Dorsey lacks confidence, but I do have some great thoughts about the offensive line play, the running game. But what I think was kind of peculiar was he went away from the type of running that we normally do. And we ran a couple of draw plays, which just died, which just killed me. I'm like, why are we running draw? He did a little bit of what we want to say, either A, got too cute or wanted to outsmart everybody else. And I normally don't criticize play selection, right? Because it's easy to say the play selection was bad when things all of a sudden aren't going well. But in this instance, I'm 3rd and 2. I want to go forward. You know, I would rather put meat on meat and push than try to dissect and hope for holes, which is what the draw looks like. So I don't think it's a lack of confidence. I think it was just some poor decision making from him.
The most comical thing that I saw, heard, or whatever read about this football game actually was on Good Morning Football. Garofalo made the comment that the reason the Buffalo Bills are struggling in the second half of games is because they traded away their power back. They don't have a power back in Zach Moss anymore. And I was just like, tell me that you don't watch Buffalo Bills games without telling me that you don't watch Buffalo Bills games, because Zach was not used ever as a power back. The Bills never really had a power run game in the last 3 or 4 years. So yeah, that was just silliness. So if anybody out here heard that and you think, yeah, that's right, they got rid of their power back. Yeah, that's not at all what happened. So
yeah, that's bad. I mean, to be fair, there are at this time of the year, 13 games on Sunday, and you can't watch them all when 5 of them are being played at the same time. So I'll forgive you, but trying to come up with a quippy little original idea, maybe research it a little bit somehow. I mean, I don't know how you would. You'd have to devour a lot of film. I don't know who keeps that stat, but that's just dumb.
I spent years of my life, 17 of them to be exact, during the drought years, never hearing good things about the Buffalo Bills, probably with good reason. And if there was a highlight or, a recap of a game, we got the 30-second spot, right? Or the 20-second spot. Oh, and the Bills played the Redskins and the blah, 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 blah. They lost, yada, yada, yada. And there was never anything good. Even when the Bills played good and if they beat the Patriots or if they beat another good team, we still got the 30-second highlight reel and there was nothing to it. What's weird to me and what I've learned is what you just said. These guys don't have the time to watch all these football games. They don't know what they're talking about. And they heap praises on guys that are supposed to have praises heaped upon them. And they talk down about guys that are supposed to be talked down about.
Go ahead. Sorry.
You're fine. And there's no better example than the Green Bay game. The Bills beat the Green Bay Packers. And if you go back or find some way to watch a highlight film from GMFB or one of these other things, they go through the highlights. And we all know, us Bills fans, that Josh did not play well in that game at all. And meanwhile, it's like Josh was outstanding against the Green Bay Packers last night. And it's like, because that's what they're supposed to say, because he's the MVP favorite, right?
Right. And then a bigger problem is, all these guys are still they're holding on to their popularity, their following, their influence.
Right.
So they feel compelled to throw ideas out there that they think are original thoughts that are completely useless. Everybody's just afraid to shut up. God, can we get some air in here? here I am talking, and you're talking like
I wasn't talking when you said that. I'll just let you talk the rest
the
of it.
throw up in my mouth.
I think I'm getting the hint. You're asking me.
No, I'm just saying. I'm saying we're two of the mouthpieces in the world, and we're criticizing the mouthpieces of the world.
Yeah, but I think that we try to bring some levity. I think we try to bring some reality. I think we try to ground some of the conversation and some of the takes. When it's good, it's good. When it's bad, it's bad. And when it's, okay, it's okay. And we're going to talk about a lot of that in this show. As promised last week, two things. We promised that we would be bringing the breakdowns back, which we are this week. We also promised that Drew Bledsoe would be with us tonight, which he is not.
Oh,
Drew Bledsoe had to reschedule, so we are working on rescheduling Drew Bledsoe. He will be joining us soon. This would have been the game, though, to have John Randall on with us, but that didn't work out either. So it is what it is.
Well, actually, kind of not. Like, it was bad enough to watch the game, and then you're all chipper because you had your cathartic release last night. With your microphone and your cool voice and everything. And meanwhile, I've been pulling my hair out since like 7 a.m. Going, why the hell didn't we kick the field goal? And so many other things.
Knock it down.
Punch it out. Just punch it out. You know what's curious is in rewatching the game, remember Stephon Diggs, the ball was tipped. He tried to make a play on it. The defender was coming in. If you look at it, he made no effort to try to recatch the ball when the defender had it. He went for the knockdown.
Yeah, for sure. And we can jump into our thoughts on this football game, but there were so many opportunities. And we can talk about there's a lot of people that want to blame Josh. There's a lot of people. I'm not even gonna say there's a lot of people that want to blame other things. It seems like everybody wants to blame Josh. To me, it's Josh. To me, it's the defense. To me, it's coaching. To me, it's we're talking about Josh Allen, who had 3 turnovers in this football game. And if somebody in the defensive huddle, or if somebody somewhere has a conversation with Cam Lewis and says, bro, it's everybody, not just Cam, it's 4th and 18, knock the ball down, which is a problem we had last year. If you remember, or was it 2 years ago, 20 or 21, we had the problem where it was the Hail Murray, where they went up and tried to catch the ball instead of just swatting it away. Cam goes up and he's upset with himself. And I don't know if you saw his post-game press conference, but he was very, very dejected. And there was a lot of curse words, a lot of expletives, but because he realized if he just swats that ball away, you don't want to catch it anyway. It's 4th and 18. You catch it, it makes the situation
worse. Right.
But if he knocks that ball away, we're having a conversation about how 5'10", 5'11" Cam Lewis out jumps Justin Jefferson to knock the ball away and save the game. Josh doesn't fumble the ball. Josh doesn't throw a second interception. It's a completely different narrative for the entire game.
You want to think that at this level of play that players have situational awareness. And, it comes down to a little bit like a reactive situational awareness from baseball, right? There's a guy in second. There's 2 outs. You say in your mind, the ball coming to me and you're an infielder, I'm going to first.
Right.
I mean, you have to think like, what's the worst thing that can happen? What's the best thing that can happen? How do I prevent the worst thing? And you want to think that the guys are equipped like that. And you can't from the sideline be screaming, hey, in the event of a jump ball, don't try to catch it. You got to knock it. There's 90 different reminders.
Sure.
And to my credit, and I'll boast a little bit here, I coached my sons in that way, even though they're offensive linemen, and it seems meaningless to a lot of people listening. What's the down and distance? How's that guy lining up on you? What's his body habitus look like? And you really have to pay attention to that stuff. So, I feel bad for him. He's a young guy, right?
From UB. He actually played at UB. He hangs around town. Obviously, I think he married a woman from Buffalo. He's a good guy. I've met him several times. He's a great kid. And
sadly, he's going to learn from that event.
Yeah, and he's a cornerback. That was his first time starting at safety. And by and large, I thought he played okay. There's some chatter out there on Twitter that he had a not great game, but it's like it was better than Jaquan Johnson the week before.
Yeah, he played okay.
Yeah, he played okay as far as that goes. But overall thoughts, I'm going to let you go first. Overall thoughts just on this game, just in general.
Well, I think the coaching really failed us. I went back and I looked at the long run by Dalvin Cook. Oh, here's the upside. If James Cook has any Dalvin Cook in him, we're looking pretty good because that guy is a baller. All right, that's huge. I really think that the coaching kind of failed us, particularly Ken Dorsey. And I don't mean that as fire the guy. I just mean, Ken, you got to be a little better than this. The play calling down the stretch, calling screens. We're not a screen team. Calling draws in short yardage situations where, you're giving the ball to a guy who's 7 yards beyond the line of scrimmage with no momentum.
Right.
When we had them in nickel, and I'm shouting because I'm very emotional. When we had them in nickel, and we were in a regular set without bunches outside the tackles, we ran the ball effectively. And what do I mean by that? The defense is going to get a couple of, no gains, the occasional tackle for a loss, but by and large, Devin Singletary and James Cook carried the ball beyond the line of scrimmage very effectively in the first two and part of the third quarter of the game.
Right.
And then you go to a draw, and then, my God, I have total post-traumatic stress disorder from a screen in the red zone when Levon Kirkland in Pittsburgh intercepts it and ran 149 yards for a touchdown.
Yeah.
It's too compressed. Don't be cute. Go forward. Do what you're good at. Make them stop what you're best at.
Right.
So, I really think the going forward on 4th and 2 really deflated them. And then it changed the thought process of, now we're playing from behind, even though we're up by 10, and we're going to start running plays that we probably rep once live in practice, and live in practice is 50% tempo.
Right.
So that's poor.
Right. We got our first super chat from Devin. Devin, thank you so much for being a part of the show. Appreciate you. I feel offensive miscues have plagued this team all season, but have been covered up by wins. Your thoughts on playoff struggles with these miscues? Can I go first?
It's my show, so thank you for asking. The answer is yes, you may. You may, son.
So I was talking with Jerry Ostrowski actually today. We were just talking about this. He was asking me another question, and we're kind of like rolled into the game itself. And it seems to me that there's a lot of, misexecution, poor execution, uncertainty, maybe not confusion is the wrong term, but it seems like there's a trepidation. There's a measure of, maybe, I don't want to say guessing, but the same fluidity that was there last year is not there this year, at least from what I feel like I'm seeing. And I attribute that, and I feel like, and you can answer this better, and I said the same thing to Jerry, you've been a part of several different offensive schemes, some that have built upon each other, some completely brand new. I feel like that as much as this is Dable's offense, Dorsey is wanting to do some things the Dorsey way. And it just feels like the team hasn't kind of found its rhythm or its groove or settled into that yet. And part of that comes from Stephon Diggs yesterday in his post-game press conference. He said two things. He said, it seems like we come out hot and then we kind of get into a lull and we get out of the groove, and we got to find a way to stay in the groove. He said, we don't have a problem necessarily getting back in the groove. He goes, we just need to not ever leave the groove. We need to stay in the groove. And then they also asked him a question about just the plays that were being called. And he did not throw anybody under the bus, but he did say, we've got to find a way to execute the plays that are called for us, which to me tells me that there might be a little bit of struggle in some of the plays that are being called. The design, the scheme, the flow of the game, they really haven't, there's just not a real good feel for what Dorsey's trying to accomplish versus what Dable was trying to accomplish. Now, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, to address the actual question, if you'll put it back up there,
Sure.
All of our foibles are covered by wins. I mean, Kirk Cousins had 2 picks that are now covered by
a
W.
He did not play great.
He gets stepped on by his center, not just once, but twice. And if anybody's curious, that's a quarterbacking problem.
Right.
And it is not it's not a center problem.
Said like a true lineman.
Well,
I'm teasing you. you.
Well, I take it as a compliment. So
perfect.
I'd rather be an offensive lineman than anything else, frankly. Thoughts on the playoff struggles and these miscues.
Well, look, be out early. That's the thought.
What's that?
They'll be out early if these miscues continue.
Well, yeah, no kidding. But I'll tell you this too. I mean, I can't break down every running play. I mean, I'd love to. Maybe that's next time I come to Buffalo, we'll do a running camp, and we'll have 50 of the wonderful Bills Mafia come. We'll get the all 22. we'll raise money for charity and we'll dissect plays. Everybody brings a play, because I could tell you right now that the straightforward running plays that we ran for Singletary and Cook were very effective. When we had problems, we were doing some pin and pull stuff against a very, very good defensive front four.
Mm-hmm.
And, it was, I don't want to say it was getting too cute, because I'm okay with a no gain every now and again.
Yeah, for sure.
But when you have a no gain and you just have a complete mistake by your offensive lineman, that's a function of, we're not getting enough full speed reps on this. We're not getting enough buy-in during the game. Stick with the zone. I love that they run the zone effectively, and then they run the tackle pull across the line.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure somebody has a name for it. Or you run the zone with the tight end going back across the line and doing the kick out. I think we should stick to those couple of plays.
Yeah.
But a couple other things that pop out to me about the running game: I would rather throw on 1st and 10 at this point in time and run on 2nd down. We ran pretty well in 2nd down, and also, I think Minnesota struggled with, do we stay in regular and do we stay in nickel? Because when they went to nickel, we exposed them with the run. So we got to do something to get them into a nickel defense, not just Minnesota, but whomever we're playing. We got to get them into a nickel, and then we have to run against the nickel in a very straightforward way and just say, we are going to lean on your guys long enough for our 5'4" running back to find a seam and get us 4 yards,
right,
and fall down for 2 more. Because honestly, when it was tight, that's all we wanted from Thurman Thomas: get to 4, fall for 2 more,
right,
and you got a good running game,
right.
All the flash aside, and then I'm going to throw it out on the other. Conversely, right, you're screaming for regular in our defense, and I'm coming to believe that we need to figure out how to strategically play some regular defense, because on that long touchdown run, although Benford missed the tackle and he should have made it, if you look at the way they lined up, they forced us to have everybody strong with Dodson in the middle, Milano strong, and then it was just a pick and choose who the receiver was going to block, and have Dalvin Cook make one guy miss.
Yeah.
So it's hard. It was a beautiful play, and it's one of my favorite formations that I wish that we ran more. We don't have the tight ends for it, but I love just evening them up and saying, we're coming at you. We're going to see who's better in the run game. For
this game, getting back to just where the blame is going to be laid, for lack of a better term. I'm the guy that says it. I've said it on this show. I said it on my show last night. I say it all the time. Quarterbacks throw interceptions, running backs fumble, wide receivers drop passes. Quarterbacks are going to throw interceptions. I just put a tweet out a little while ago that I don't feel like the decision that Josh made at the end of the game was bad. Gabe Davis was open. Josh was a little bit late with the throw, and he underthrew it. And we don't know necessarily how, what, why. I'm sure the double hitch didn't help him. If you're looking to find out what I'm talking about, just look for my Twitter account while you're listening, and you'll see that post there. But at the end of the day, quarterbacks are going to make mistakes. Running backs, Devin Singletary, is going to fumble, and the defense has to pick the team up at times. And there's been a lot of chatter for me, thought on this game, or there's been a lot of chatter I've heard, I should say, not from me, but there's been a lot of chatter about this game that this was all Josh's fault. The defense did enough. And it's like, the Vikings scored 33 points. Are we really talking about the fact that, like, the defense did enough? In the second half, they stopped him twice at the beginning of the half, or once at the beginning of the half. And that was it, other than one time where they stopped him on their own 1 yard line. There wasn't a whole lot of stopping going on. Even in overtime, they let him come down and kick a field goal.
Look, so, I agree with you. I totally agree with you. Let me address the defensive portion of it.
Yeah.
I think we're missing our 2 safeties more than anything else.
Sure.
I don't think that the corners are playing poorly. I think they're playing adequately. But the difference is it's Hamlin back there, right?
Yeah.
And I think he's playing great. However, what he's missing, you cannot cure, because what he needs is time and experience to know when to be aggressive. I don't feel like we're supporting quickly enough on the throws.
Right.
And I think that is the difference. I think with Hayden Poyer, I think at least 3 of those throws get broken up or challenged even better than they were.
Yeah.
And honestly, I mean, other than the long run, I like the performance of the front 6. I thought it wasn't terrible. There were a few long runs that I would have liked to have back, but You're right. I mean, you got to. I think in the long run, I look at the coaching, the play
Yes.
calling from Dorsey.
Yes.
I think McDermott's got to kick the field goal. I think that
Yes.
changes the landscape of the game immeasurably.
Yes.
But then Dorsey has to, even if we go for it on 4th and 2 and you miss it, don't play like you're grasping at straws. Now I'm going to run a draw. Now I'm going to run a screen on the 6-yard line. Now I'm going to do all this fancy stuff. 3rd and 2, run forward. Don't wait and look for it to separate. I agree.
Right.
The defense, though, we're not getting the big stop. And I'm not blaming those guys. They just don't have the things that come later with time and experience. And
there's a building upon
right.
what you're doing. There's a building upon those defensive flows. There's a building upon that momentum. And it just seemed like I had in my notes, I talked about it briefly on the show yesterday, just that, big plays happened. We had some people come through at a big moment with a couple big sacks, and it was 4th and 18, and they gave up a big pass for a first.
Yeah, right. I totally agree, man. And it's crazy to think that it's true that Tremaine Edmonds matters in the middle of the field.
Big time.
And, when he came out, I was like, I tried to look on the film today. Did I see him like come up and grab his groin?
He did.
I didn't just say that out loud, did I?
Yeah, he went. So I remember it specifically because I watched the play
in the 3rd quarter.
Yeah, so he went down in kind of a mass of a couple other bodies, and he got to his hands and knees and kind of sat there for a second. And I was like, ruh-roh. And then he jumped up. Somebody tried to help him up, but he jumped up and then he didn't super limp off, but it wasn't.
Right. I did see that, and I kept thinking, okay, well, when that's a tough one because your groin is, when you think you're recovering from it, you never really test it like you test it in a game.
Right.
And it's one of those things that also is in the back of your mind when you're going to make an athletic move. Am I going to change the way I would naturally do this because I'm afraid I'm going to pop that little groin muscle? Tiny little muscle, but a little bit debilitating, right?
Yeah, for sure. We got on the super chat from Pamela, our good friend Pam. Love Dorsey's fire, but could he be too aggressive for Josh? Felt Dable held Josh's talent back, which was good for Josh's wildness sometimes, but maybe Dorsey is too aggressive. Find a happy medium.
No, but here's where I go back. I love the comment, Pam, and thank you very much for posting that. What I think is Dorsey. How do I explain this? There's always been and ever will be a disconnect from the guys on the field and the guys in the booth. You can look at a game plan and think, if we got in a paper fight, we'd win. We're just going to throw our game plan at them harder than they throw theirs at us.
Right.
And then as the game's developing, you start to lose this focus of my quarterback the week before was struggling with confidence issues.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a struggle there. So McDermott, why put him in a position on 4th and 2? Why not just take the points? Right. Dorsey, why am I going to put him in a position? And by the way, the screen to the right was open and Josh grounded it when he should have joshed it and just, he jumps 5 inches in the air and he has his arm at the top. It's like 14 feet in the air and he could have lobbed it. It was wide open.
Right.
But it's not a play you run all the time. Why are you running it? So it's not a function of, is Dorsey too aggressive? It's like, just focus on what we do best. Like, quit making shit up. Like, you got the grease board and the pen in the booth, and you're like, well, Joe Miller's the bottle cap. Joe Marino is the string. Pam Adana is the caterpillar.
Exactly.
And that to me, I looked at that and I was like, where in the Sam Hill did that come from?
Right. Well, we got to move on. We got to let's run to the good in this football game. But before we do, I had the opportunity, dare I say, the luxury, the pleasure to sit in the booth of one of our show sponsors, House Capital. Brian Belser hosted both me and my mom, and we had a really good time. Super thankful. So yeah, why don't you tell the folks about House Capital?
Yeah, it was fun. And they're good people in that booth.
They are good people, yes.
In that luxury box. So luxurious. Hey, when you're looking to buy a house, everybody's got a guy. You might need work done on your roof. Your buddy, hell yeah, he's got a guy. If you need an inspection, I mean, even I know someone. And when you're looking to get your financing together, Brian Belser from House Capital Corporation can be your guy. They help make the mortgage process simple, hassle-free, and understandable. At House Capital, their preferred relationships with some of the top lenders gives you the edge up in getting the financing you need. Take it to the house with House Capital and Brian Belser. Super great guy. Get your financing together.
Give Brian a call. I believe his cell phone is the number that's on the screen, 716-815-2102, 716-815-2102. We are going to jump over and we are going to talk about the good from this game. And I'm going to let you go first, sir, because this is, as you said, this is your show.
Oof, the good.
I thought there was a lot of good.
Yeah, there was a lot of good. I want to know why we don't see Nyheim Hines more, because he was good. I like him. I like him a lot. What else was good? Basic formation, run, zone blocking, productivity. Good. Let's see more of it.
Yeah.
If you run on first down or you throw on first down and you can get them in nickel on second down, then you can run or pass. Play action. I wrote in my notes, which are way over there. Play action works. Play action works if you actually have running plays. I'll tell you another thing. I really felt like even though Groot was down, the defensive front four was super aggressive.
Right.
Getting close. And, it didn't maybe matter in the end. We got a couple 3 sacks. I can't remember what it was, but they look strong. Even though we don't love it, Dodson getting more experience is good for us.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Josh's elbow seems okay.
Agreed.
Despite the underthrow and maybe one other throw that I saw. So that's my good, man. Let me go get my notes. You go ahead. I'm listening.
Well, hang on. There's a super chat, so don't jump away. But there was a couple shots during the game in my rewatch. Again, I was there, so I didn't get to see it live. Where underneath his white sleeve, it looked like he had some sort of a brace on his right arm. Which being a Buffalo kid, growing up throwing in a snowsuit was never easy. So I can't imagine whatever he had on his arm underneath all of his pads probably restricted him a little bit. But Bryce Erdwin with the super chat says, too many turnovers, but JA17 looked comfortable with his elbow. Brings comfort just to have to square away. Brings comfort just to have to square away the loose ends. I agree. Maybe you don't need to stick around for that one.
No, I think it's hard to think that he's wearing a brace, but maybe a neoprene sleeve, something to keep it warm.
It looked like there was something bulky at the top, like the top of his bicep. Yeah, but I could be wrong.
It's probably just some sort of compression thing that, is 10 or 15 millimeters thick or something like that.
So you run and get your notes. So the good for me, there was a lot of good.
Right there. It's not that far away.
Take a nap on the way. The good for me was I was very, very elated and excited to see the run defense step up. Now, keeping in mind that they gave up an 81-yard play, 81 rushing yards on one play. By and large, they bottled up Dalvin Cook, who is a top 5 running back in the NFL. I thought the run game was fantastic. They figured it out. They shored it up against a good running team. Justin Jefferson somehow had 193 or 189 yards receiving that game. One of them was for 40 yards. There was obviously the other one for 30 yards, but it didn't seem like Justin Jefferson was the problem, right? Mm-hmm. Justin had a lot of those yards, and the Bills were up by 3 scores. They were up by 17 points. And then it turned into us standing in the suite going, he's just going to throw it to Justin Jefferson at the end of the game. And every time he just did, and Justin Jefferson just kept coming down with the football. There was a stat I heard today that Justin Jefferson, I think of the passes he caught, it was like 80 or 90% of them were 50-50 balls. Like his probability of catching was 50%, and he caught almost every single one of them, which is just otherworldly. But I thought the defense early played well against the run. I thought they played well against the pass. They pushed Kirk into some mistakes defensively or offensively. I thought that was good. Obviously, it unraveled. I thought Josh, as was just stated, did look comfortable early. I thought he kind of looked back to himself. I was in the booth yelling 3rd and Josh because we were back to it's 3rd and 12 or 3rd and 16. Josh drops back and does what Josh does. Like he chucks the ball 16 yards down the field, first down. There's a lot of good grabs. There were a lot of plays that were being made. There's a lot of good, most of it in the first half. The second half, it wasn't a comedy of errors, but it was just a mistake was made and then it wasn't picked up. And then a mistake was made and it wasn't picked up. And then a mistake was made and it wasn't picked up. It was just one of those things. But overall, the game itself, it was entertaining. And I get why it was being heralded even at the end of the game by the broadcast announcer. This is the game of the year. Like, people were freaking out about what a great game it was. For the average spectator, probably so. For us, not so much. That game ends differently. It probably is, but the way that it ended, I was in shock. It had the fumble. This isn't good, but the fumble in the end zone on the push at the very end of the game was in my end zone. Like, literally, we're sitting on top of that play, and I'm just like, what happened? Like, the referee's signaling touchdown, and I'm just like in disbelief. I'm like, what happened?
Well, we were talking about the good, and you transferred to that. And I actually was like, I was doing a hard reset on my brain to hope to forget that play, but that's 100% on Josh. It is centers snap the ball. If you're a quarterback, you need to understand, is my center snapping and going to my left or to my right? And then you ride them a little bit to compensate. And that was curious. However, I'm sitting there with my great friends from Niagara Falls who are vacationing in Tucson, Frank Thomas Croysdale and Maureen and his daughter and their friend. And I said to myself, I would not sneak it here. I would roll out and throw it away, or I would roll out and hit a shorty. I would do something. I don't like handing it off because that's a little bit scary.
Let's come back to that. Let's do the good plays, right? And then we'll come back to that in the bad.
Well, you transitioned to
that. It was an accident.
Whose show is this?
It's yours, but I want to keep it. We're already running a little bit long in the tooth, for lack of a way of saying it.
Okay, go.
So we are going to break down a couple plays for you guys, and the first one is actually they're all three Devin Singletary plays, but the first good play is this one. Which is the very first big run by Devin Singletary. So I don't know if you want to talk about the formation on the lineup or what.
Yeah, so mostly what I'm talking about here is what I've been talking about for weeks now. Devin Singletary is a little guy, and he comes from a school where it's wide open sets. And when you start cramping up the formation with more tight ends and then guys in the the kind of wing formation, or you get that teacup formation, you're just bringing too many people in. This clears the field for him. And what we're doing is we're kind of running zone to the left. We're pulling the tackle, and we're giving Devin a chance to really see the defensive front, which in this case only consists of 6 guys. So we're making it easy for him to read. So go ahead and run it. We do have a poor block by Saffold. But the nice thing about this is you get a great block from Dawkins, and Singletary reads it, right? So this is normally supposed to be a kick-out block by Dawkins, but because the defensive end wrong arms it, Dawkins wraps it, and he makes a bounce. It's just nice. And now you got horrible Harry out in space. And
yep. And then he does it.
And look at him in the open field. I mean, this guy, if we can get him free,
making people miss a phone booth.
I hate saying cut on a dime, but dear God, he just made 3 guys miss, 2.5 really.
Yep. So here's the other angle. So where
I love it.
So Saffold is out there in space by himself, right?
No, Saffold's got to block the 3 technique, and he whiffs.
He whiffs on horrible Harry. So Harry totally just sidesteps him. He's like, whoop, nice.
Well, yeah, but it's nothing to do with Harry and everything to do with Saffold. But what Saffold, he could have just, when you miss like that, the worst thing you can do is look backwards. He should have helped on the double team 2 frames ago.
Right.
And then go back a little bit. When I talk about kicking out or wrapping, one more frame back, you see when Dawkins is coming toward the defensive end here, I don't know who it is.
Yep.
If that guy comes up field toward Josh, he kicks him out. But what he does here is he kind of sits, and what we say is wrong arm it, where he's going to take his left shoulder and kind of drive into the block. And the thing that he's trying to do is compress the hole between Morse and Dawkins, but because Singletary has that ability to cut off of it, he sees the defensive end wrong arm it, so he bounces.
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
And the good news is here it's basically hat on, and then Shakir is going for the safety, and then all Singletary has to do is make the one guy miss, which he always does, right? And there it is.
And God, Spencer Brown is so good in space, and he had those 2 stupid and awful holding penalties.
Yeah.
Oh, and I got to give him a dude award. Dude, come on.
For the bad penalty.
Oh, 2 of them. He got 2 holds.
Yeah, for sure. So that's the first one. So there was a lot of good stuff there, but a little bit of bad stuff too, but nothing major. The second one is the very next.
Oh, okay, so you brought up something that's really cool, but just by saying that, when you run from these very simple sets, like the one you have on the screen,
Mhm.
and you're giving the ball to a guy at 6 or 7 or 8 yards, he has the ability to save the ass of a guy who either gets beat
Mhm.
or gets olayed or makes a mental error. But when you compress and you bring 9 guys or 8 guys deep into the box, there is less room for error by, well, everybody. And we've seen enough error from receivers on blocking, from tight ends on blocking. So
Run it.
yeah, run it. Why not? I don't even know what it is.
It's a
You made
touchdown
this up.
play.
Yeah. So this is just pretty simple, right? I mean, if you go back, what we're doing is we're bringing Gabe Davis in motion. And if everybody wants to know why we're doing it, it's because he's outflanked by the slot DB.
Mhm.
So you bring him into motion so he has an angle to play on White. I think his name is number 23.
Mhm.
But the beauty of this play is Quentin Morris. He makes this play go. It's just a simple zone left. Everybody's stepping left. We get a hat on a hat. We want to make that combination good block, get to the second level. But watch Morris right here. Hands inside, and he has a chance to really kind of rework his body into the man. Right there, he's got him extended, and now Singletary's gone. You can't recover from that.
Yep.
He's 1.5 and 1.5. He's 1.5 yards out, and he's 1.5 yards close to you. He's going by.
Yep. Indeed. So that's that one. And then the last one is Devin Singletary as well. I don't remember the exact situation, but you sent this to me.
What's the down and distance? I can't see it.
I actually trapped it's out of the screen. So let's just roll through here real quick.
Yeah, again, simplicity of formation.
So what were they doing in the second half? Were they lining up differently? Was the formations different in the second half? And if they were, what is the reason?
They called 3 draw plays on 3rd and short.
What's the reason for that? I mean, you guys lived bread and butter for Thurman Thomas and Jim Kelly, and your offensive line was the draw. That delayed, like, reach around draw, right?
Yeah, but that was us, and we practiced it, 5 times a day.
Right.
And there is a lot, I don't want to get too ethereal or anything, but there's a lot of feel to these plays. And you're pass protecting, but you want the guy to beat you, but in such a way that you control him, that you guide him on a draw play. Right now, we're going forward. Stop the film.
Mm-hmm.
We got 4 of our 5 offensive linemen on the line or beyond. I don't know what Spencer Brown's doing, but
he's chasing his block.
Yeah, he's chasing his block. But he makes good contact.
Yeah.
He should have gone for the inside shoulder. But look at how collapsed it is. Right? On the top of the screen.
Yep.
Simplicity of formation, bodies moving forward. I think that's our identity as a run group. And when we get away from that, when we start pulling 2 offensive linemen, we got to do 2 down blocks, and we don't practice that enough, and you never practice it live. It's not a good recipe.
Right. So those are the good plays. And I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I could very well be wrong because we did not talk about this beforehand and I've never studied it. The genius behind a draw or a delay is the idea, the concept that, like, the rushers are going to pin their ears back, and then basically you wait, get the ball, and run by them as they're not even paying attention to you, which is something that in this offense could work because we're such a pass heavy offense. So the question is why don't they hone in on that some more? Because that's what worked for you guys, was the fact that it was a pass heavy offense. Everybody knew that Jim was going to throw the ball if he had the chance. So let's catch you trying to get Jim. And that's what they did.
Yeah, look, I don't disagree with that, but that goes back to philosophy, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's your philosophy? Now, I'll say this.
We still don't have one.
Yeah, I don't want to run the draw when Harrison Phillips is in the game.
Right.
He's not rushing the passer.
Right.
I don't think you want to do it when Jordan Phillips is in the game either. I mean, He's not. When Ed Oliver's in the game, yes. When Boogie Basham is playing the 3 technique, yes. So you run a lot. When you run the draw, you're relying on a very, very traditional rush coming upfield with 2 guys that want to meet at the quarterback at 8 yards deep. and a couple of defensive tackles who Culpepper and what's his name from Tampa Bay, legend, Hall of Famer, propositioned a girl in the elevator, got arrested.
Warren
Sapp,
Yep,
right?
Yep.
Sorry, Warren, I didn't want to bring that up, but I'm sorry. I knew you'd know it. I knew you'd know it. So you have to have the right personnel, and then you better hope they're not gaming. You hope they're not doing a TE stunt. Because if they're an ET, you're going to be okay, but a TE, you're in real trouble.
Right.
So there's too many variables, I think.
Before we jump over to the not so good, the needs work. You know what is really good is barbecue sauce, and boy, do we have a barbecue sauce for the folks here on our show to talk about.
Yeah, and Q42. Honestly, I cook for like 20 people at a time. I need the gallon size jug.
Right.
So hey, I'm feeling fresh this Monday night. You should know what's in your barbecue rub. You should be knowledgeable. Q42's Texas Brisket Coffee Rub. Texas Brisket Coffee Rub, which I am going to use tonight, is made of coarse black pepper, salt, garlic, onion, paprika, cayenne. He's giving away the recipe. And Tim Hortons coffee. No preservatives.
It's really Tim Hortons coffee. Wow.
No fillers. Put it on burgers, steak, beef ribs, and of course, brisket. With some heat and smoke, you'll get a beautiful bark while the coffee delivers an earthy flavor. It's also John Fina and Jerry Ostrowski approved. And I said that because I'll tell you in a second. Go to Q42barbecue.com. Hulk smash that Fina show, all caps, coupon code, and save 30% on your order. And Thanksgiving's coming and Christmas. And oh my God, stocking stuffers. Who wouldn't love Q42 in their stocking?
Dope. Love it.
Hint, hint. And I told you I'd surprise you. I am going to check out right now and start the Kohl's. I'll be right back because I am using the coffee rub tonight.
We have a super chat.
I'll be right back.
Oh my gosh. This guy, he's spending more time off the show than he is spending on the show right now. But no, the Q42 stuff, just so in case anybody's wondering where the name even comes from. So Buffalo is on the 42nd parallel, which is kind of a cool way to get your name. So Q42 from Buffalo. Obviously, they're Buffalo Bills fans, and we appreciate Iman and everything that he does, not only for us, but for the Mafia as well on Sundays when we are tailgating. So do yourselves a favor, jump over to Q42bbq.com and type in Fina Show. Get yourself, it says 15% right there, but it's actually 30% for a limited time. But yeah, are you out of breath now? You out of breath?
How long was that? It was like 45 seconds.
It was like forever. Tracy has a super chat. She wants to know what they do when a player loses confidence in himself. Is there a protocol?
Well, in the days past, you just cut it up in the locker room, slap him around a little bit, lift him up. Nowadays, I'm sure it's therapy dog and I don't know. I mean, we're a kinder, gentler universe, but yeah, I think a lot of that, really falls on the quarterback room and the coach, the head coach, and Dorsey.
Yeah.
And then, you run a balance in the locker room of acknowledging it and addressing it versus ignoring it. Right? Like, you don't want to make somebody get more and more inside their own head.
Right.
And I have conversations with my boys about this too. I mean, it can happen at any position. Yes, and when you're playing left tackle or if you're playing cornerback and you're having a little bit of confidence issues, you're not going to break on the ball, or you're not going to get your head around, or you're going to second guess your set. Right? I went through a little phase there where I was kind of tentative about striking. Which brings me to Spencer Brown. He's rusty. He needs to stop holding because it killed us. I mean, they're killers. And I think we overcame one of them and one we did not. But psychologically, it's like the punt return that goes for 45 yards. I never celebrated a punt return until I looked back and saw no yellow on the field.
Right.
So I think that's part of the work, right? Josh has to work on his confidence and realize that there's an ebb and flow to it, but he needs to have a stability within himself that transcends the accolades and the excitement, a humility that I know that he has, but it really has to come into play when the moments are darkest. And guess what? We're here.
Yeah.
What else needs work?
They need to limit the mistakes. Clearly, Josh is needing to limit the mistakes. You touched on bad penalties at bad times, and there were several of them in that football game yesterday. Play calling to me is somewhat of an issue as far as, go ahead.
Let's stay on that. Play calling, right?
Yep.
So I want to see Dorsey understanding what the defense does in the first half and make minor modifications in the second half that only elaborate and build on the current game plan.
Right.
However, why an entirely new running philosophy in the second half? That's baffling. Dorsey needs work. And it's funny because most people think about players watching film. Coaches watch film, and good leaders like McDermott are going to say, how do you grade yourself? It's not just players who come out of a game with a grade. It's coaches.
For sure.
And I got to tell you, and McDermott, he probably won't publicly admit it, but he's probably looking back saying, why did I give the go to going for it on 4th and 2? Maybe he fell to the pressure of Dorsey and everybody saying, go for it. Or maybe he did it unilaterally, but he's got to be sitting there going, let me look at the situational awareness of the game. Why would I make that decision again?
Yeah, I think if it's 7, if you're still up 3 possessions, you go for it, right? It's tough. It's a hard situation to be in. It's a hard position to be in, and it's always about hindsight is 20/20 and rethinking it. The problem is I don't want the Bills to be in a situation where he's hesitant later, especially if the offense is hot. I think that's part of the conversation. Was the offense hot enough to press there? And I don't know that they were. And then
no, they weren't. And you fold in, and I'm interrupting you because it's my show. You fold in the fact that Josh was coming off of a very self-incriminating performance the week before. So you should be putting him in situations where there's no fail.
Right.
And whether it was the 4th and 2 or the interception game-ending play, he should have been thinking, I don't need to go for it. He's not as open as he should be. Right. I clutched it or I pumped it. Now I just need to run it.
Right.
And Josh, I can see some things too, where he's dropping too deep now a little bit on his full depth. By the way, play action is beautiful because you only dropped to 6. So, and he's vacating the pocket sometimes when he doesn't need to. I think he enjoys throwing on the run, so I wouldn't try to correct that. But if a guy is struggling a little bit with his confidence, you should call plays to his strength.
So let's take a look at the draw play that you've talked about so much on this show, real quick.
Well, for me, this is just all about down and distance. I mean, think about it as a defender, as a philosophy, right? So it's 3rd and 2. I'm the second level linebackers. I don't even have to move, right? Because I just need to protect for the first down throw because they need 2 yards. So there's no way I'm going to drop 3 yards.
So you touch on a good point that I didn't think about even when we talked about this play. Draw plays typically happen 3rd and 14, 3rd and 18.
Fans 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7.
Fans like myself generally call it a give-up play. We don't have a pass play. Not Bills fans now because we have a quarterback, 3rd and Josh. They can throw the ball 18 yards down the field and hit an open receiver. Generally speaking, most teams don't have that play. So if it's 3rd and 12, 3rd and 14, they run a draw play because there's space, right? And then you hope for a missed tackle or 2, and you get lucky. If not, you at least get 7-8 yards, try to flip the field position. But 3rd and 2, this legitimately, with all those people on the line and the linebackers up, makes 0 sense. Let's stop and pause and then hand the ball off.
Well, and again, they're in nickel, right? We have 6 to block 6. They don't have 7 in the box.
Right.
The math works for us right here. Oh, now you get me all angry. Watch the linebackers. Look at the linebacker creeping at the bottom. He's already creeped. He's at the first down marker. I mean, it's a disaster. Who's going to rush on 3rd and 2?
No gain. Like no gain.
No gain.
Zero gain. Yeah, it's just not great. We have another super chat from Doc Dog 77, and he just asks where are the Josh sweeps. So Josh is injured, right? So they weren't going to put him at risk in this game. There was the one play, the interception he had where he made the tackle and laid on the turf for a while, and we don't know at this point if he was on the ground pissed at himself or not pissing himself, pissed off at himself, or if he was laying on the ground because he was potentially injured, tweaked the elbow, whatever. We don't know, but they're just not going to put him at risk. This is
here's the beauty of Josh Allen. If you look at that draw play again, don't go back to it, but in your mind, because I've already committed it to memory, that's a perfect opportunity to run whatever you want to call it, Josh sweep. You can pull a guard. Right. I love the single tight end power with one guard. And now, although Devin Singletary might be better replaced by, Hines or Cook to lead block through the hole, just, that's a better play than a draw.
Right. This is the James Cook no gain play.
Mm-hmm. All right. So what you have here is really just unfortunate job by Deion Dawkins
and everybody else.
No. What happens is that stop it right there.
Oh, gotcha. I'll go back.
This play is really supposed to hit up inside of Saffold, and you see Bates right there going for the cut. But what happens is you can see Deion Dawkins' numbers, and that's bad. So he misses his down block.
Right.
Go back to the snap.
Gotcha. Oops.
Are they in regular or are they in nickel?
Where is it? There it is.
Right. So they're in nickel, right?
Yep.
Again, they're in nickel. We got two guys in the backfield.
Naheem Hines is the other one.
Right. I mean, this should be a no-brainer. Let's run zone. Run Naheem Hines out to the flat to the left and just run zone to the right. I mean, give him a cutback. But what we're doing here is we're adding too much. We got Horrible Harry, who is just chomping at the bit to show up his Buffalo Bills, going against the guys that he fought against, right? I just don't love it. I don't love it. So you miss a down block, you get driven at the center position, not the center position, I'm sorry, the Saffold ends up with, not Saffold, I can't even. All I'm saying is you're adding too many angles, you're adding too much complication. And if I can't describe it easily, that's a problem for our running game, right? What have I said? Simple formations, simple plays.
Right.
Two guys pin and pull. There's too many things that can happen. Linebackers come downhill on the guys that are pulling, and the guys that are blocking down have to deal with a guy who could either be penetrating or reading. It's just not smart for our philosophy. Now, that's not to say other teams can't do it well, but we don't. Now I'm getting angry.
You are angry. So this is the last one that we got as far as just stuff that needs work. And this is the Dalvin Cook relatively decent run. You wanted to talk about the defensive line here, I think, just a little bit, but not great, Bob.
No, I mean, we have a lot of penetration going on. That's kind of the hallmark of what we want to do as a front four. But we just have to make sure that when we're pressing, guys aren't choosing. So I think what you have here is you have you're getting a little bit of lack of reaction from the linebackers. I hate to say it, and they did what we want to do to everybody else. We're a nickel. It's a base set. We put a body on a body and we're reading.
Right.
We got to have a guy make a play. And this goes back to what you said before. We need to make plays, and we're not making plays. We got to beat guys man to man. And this is part of the game. And we're not seeing it. I mean, it was a great effort there. I don't know if it's Phillips or Daquan, but you know what? We're missing a little bit of kind of like the Superman stuff we used to see from some of the 90s defenders.
Right.
When things weren't looking good. All of a sudden, Darryl Talley or Bruce Smith or Phil Hansen would make some ridiculously cool tackle when it was the most unlikely of situations.
Right.
For
sure.
We're not getting it.
Right, for sure. So, so the next thing that we're going to talk about, let's just put this game to bed. And we're a little bit long, but our next expectations and the next game that we have is the Cleveland Browns. And I'm going to be honest with you. My first expectation is, I think, as much as we're facing probably the number one running back in the NFL, not named Jonathan Taylor or Saquon Barkley, Nick Chubb is that guy, right? Nick Chubb. I'm somewhat confident that the Bills can do what they need to do defensively against him to kind of, they're gonna sell out to Chubb and make Jacoby Brissett beat them, right? I mean, that's going to be the plan for this football game.
Yeah, I agree with you, but you end up in a numbers game if they can scheme us like Minnesota did on the 80-yard touchdown run. It only takes one, right? So if we're in nickel and they're scheming us with their basically regular package,
can we not start that? If they do not roll out a traditional 4-3 in this football game, I might turn it off at this, like in the first quarter.
All right. Well, you got Tremaine Edmonds, who's likely going to be out. So who are your linebackers?
Tyrell Dotson, Matt Milano, and the new kid Bernard.
All right. And which one of those guys, how are two of them Phil guys or one is a Phil guy?
Well, the interesting part about the names I just named, the guy they want is Bernard. They want him to be kind of like the next Tremaine Edmonds, which he did not.
He's not a Phil guy. That's what I'm talking about.
Right. Well, hang on. I was finishing my thought though. Like, he hasn't played up to expectations. Balin Spector is a guy that in preseason played his way onto this football team. He was expected to not make the team. And I don't even know that we've seen him on the field. If I could be wrong, he might not even be on the team anymore. I may have missed it, but in my opinion, you've got the horses you need, right? So what have we heard since the beginning? That Matt Milano and Tremaine Edmonds are interchangeable as it pertains to execution. Now, Tremaine Edmonds is the quarterback. He calls the plays. He puts guys in position, put Bernard on the field. But if Tremaine can't play, why not move Milano inside, right? And kind of like live in that Tremaine space. I don't know. More.
No. I think you got it sideways, upside down, and backwards. I think Dodson's got to be the guy in the middle because he's the Phil guy. Do you know what I mean when I say Phil?
Well, yes, but like Brian Bauer says, you don't want Bernard in over Taron Johnson. That's absolutely not true. Every time we've played a solid, good running back, Jonathan Taylor last year, we kept Taron Johnson in there because we want that nickel guy because we're so much. You don't need to play a base nickel against Jacoby Brissett. You stop the run.
I think what's curious is if you're coming up against a run team and you're not running regular defense on 1st and 10, whatever their tendencies are, then that is a curious decision to make.
All right. So explain the Phil linebacker piece then.
When I say fill, I don't mean a guy filling in. I mean a guy filling the hole.
Right. Yes. I do that.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. So I think Dodson's your guy
for sure
to fight through traffic between the guards. And I think Bernard is probably your space guy with Milano being the boundary guy.
Right.
So I think we're saying the same thing. But if we need to stop this running back, who is a terrific football player, and I hate it when I say that because what else does he play? He's a terrific tennis player, and his badminton game is unbelievable. We got to stop the fly from getting over us.
Right. So what are you expecting from this football team against the Browns this weekend?
All right. Defensively, I do expect a stouter running defense, right? I think the coaching for the safeties, we're going to be a little bit more aggressive in the passing game, coming downhill, challenging those catches from 12 yards to 22-yard depth.
Right.
Frankly. All right. Offensively, I think that I saw it. I only watched the film twice. We need to line up in a simple formation, throw on 1st down, run on 2nd down when they're in nickel, and do what we do best, which is go forward. And literally, we need to find a way to expose the middle of the field a little bit better with the passing game. And we're missing that reliable slot guy that sits down and finds the open area. And we got to get it.
Yeah. So Brian Bowers follows up just a comment that the defensive tackles have to play better. Yeah, no kidding. The problem is you can't just be like, hey, we're going to roll Taron Johnson out here. You guys got to play better.
But he's right. I mean, what I've seen is it's a little too much feast or famine to Brian's point. And I love the point that he brought up. And I'm loath to be hypercritical of that position because it is Oh God, after linebacker, that's the last position I would ever play, defensive tackle. What a torturous, murderous, crappy place to live.
I just don't agree with
but
looking at the defensive tackles and saying you guys got to play better. If
no, but he's right.
Wishes and whatever were something.
But he's right that the consistency. I think what he's talking about is the consistency.
But they're not. So you don't roll Taron Johnson out there. You put an extra linebacker out there. I
don't disagree with you, but I'm talking about. I think what we're talking about is technique, functionality, disengaging, and gap integrity.
Sure.
So those things, need to get better.
If we go back to the Jets game, the joke that I made and you caught right onto it was Damar Hamlin just tackled the Jets running back again, 20 yards down the field because the defensive tackles weren't doing anything, and then neither were the linebackers. They were just running right through us. I don't know that there's a world where it's like all of a sudden 10 at the 10th game, you've finally gotten through to them. And they're going to get it this game. So we get to play the nickel 4-2 against a run first team like the Colts. Somebody else asked the question, what's the weather going to be like, right? Will weather play a factor? It's going to be 29 degrees and windy. What do you think is going to happen in that football game?
Well, listen, the part of the problem is you can't coach like your quarterback is going to win every damn game. You can't have an offensive running game philosophy that relies on number 17 to win every damn game. Whether it's a slump because it's a slump, or your underwear's on backwards, or whatever the hell it is, everybody ebbs and flows.
Yes.
And we need to pick it up. On the defensive side of the ball, the coaching, the play calling. I don't really want to say coaching. I think the play calling was just vexing in the second half. Right. I was vexed.
Very vexed. The thing about the weather as well is this isn't the Falcons coming in here or the Dolphins. Cleveland is 2.5 hours down the street. Their weather is exactly the same as ours. So they're going to be just as used to it or suffer just as much as we're going to suffer. That's like the great misnomer as it pertains to Buffalo weather, is like we get accused of Siberia and horrible weather and snow, and Cleveland has the exact same weather we have, but that's a conversation for a different day. So we need to wrap this thing up. It's been a fun show. This show has been 1,000 times better than last week, where there was no good to talk about. There was two plays. There were two good plays, and that was it. So this has been a fun, I hope cathartic for you. This is round 2 for me. I hope you have found Zen.
My chi, my center. Look at how flexible my wrists still are.
It's impressive.
That's why people think I can play. Look at my wrist flexibility.
It's 61 years old. That's super impressive.
Oh my God, I only look 61.
John, before I close this out, any final thoughts?
Yeah, clean it up on Twitter. Don't call players out. Don't call it out except in a constructive kind of way. You can see I can criticize players, but I still root for them. I'm not saying they lost the whole damn thing, or it was a team effort and a loss. It's a team effort and a win. Be kind to your team because they've embraced your community. They love you. You love them back. Don't run away at the first sign of adversity.
Yeah.
Advocate for your team, stick together as a fan base. Don't take bloody bite-sized chunks out of each other. There is no upside in that.
Super good. Super good. So coming up right after this show is a new program to Buffalo Rumblings, which is Buffalo Late Night, hosted by Thomas DeLoss. Jenna Cottrell is going to be on their first episode on Rumblings, and me. So stick around. If you are not doing anything, or you've got some time to kill, or you want to turn the volume down on the football game, which I've done here, and you watch it and listen to us. But coming up right after this at 9:30, Buffalo Late Night with Thomas DeLoss is coming up right after this. Tomorrow night, Code of Conduct. Wednesday night, Hump Day Hotline. Thursday night, Buffalo Nerd, and then 3-Man Rush with Jerry Ostrowski, your former teammate. And then Friday is Food for Thought. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been tuned into the Off Tackle with John Fina show, brought to you by the Market Dominator team on the Buffalo Rumblings Vidcast Network. My name is Joe Miller. That over there is John Fina. We love you guys. We appreciate you guys. Can't wait to talk to you next week. Look for a reschedule with Drew Bledsoe. We're working on a bunch of other guests as well. Soon. Even if it happens in the off season, we'll get some guests on here that you guys want to listen to, right?
And worst case scenario, you just get us again.
I think, judging by the comments, I think that's okay with people. I think they kind of, they enjoy at least you. I don't, but you are a pretty attractive man.
We love them back. We
do
love them back. Final thoughts. Here we go.
No, you already gave it. I'm good.
I know. Let's go.
I have
Let's
none.
go. Let's go.
So you want to get out of here? Well, then let's just do a Go Bills and get out of here. Go Bills.
A Dove Kate. Go Bills.
Go Bills.